Let's say everyone had a voter ID. Everyone had a voter ID law.
Yeah.
Well, how do you get on the voter registration list? Well, you have to sign something affirming you're not a U.S. citizen, or you are a U.S. citizen for federal elections.
Yeah.
I think there's one state that requires verification of that. Nowhere, what is it, Georgia?
It's hotly litigated, the extent to which you can deviate from the federal form. I mean,
But there's one that's been grandfathered in. Nevertheless, practically speaking, there's no citizenship verification to register to vote.
Practically speaking, there is not.
So we've got how many aliens, both lawfully and unlawfully present, tens of millions of them here in the United States.
What was it 3.5% unlawful, 3.5% lawful, so 7%? Is that
so there's a study by Old Dominion University, a professor at Old Dominion University, and he did an analysis and he found that a certain percentage of aliens, both legal and otherwise, will register to vote, and a certain percentage will vote, which to me is just like a common sense.
Yeah.
It's a question, people can fight about how many are actually doing all of that, but that was his analysis. I mean, is that a fair way of thinking about it?
Well, it was an interesting study, and it is very, very hotly contested because it does undercut all the
hotly
rhetoric.
Contested by, frankly, the
Well,
leftists
yes.
who don't like the idea of requiring anyone to.
Yes, but the courts have split on this. But what that study did was very clever, which is it took an 80,000 person database online, where the people who constructed the database did not qualify it for citizenship. If a pollster goes up to someone and says, can I ask you a few questions about the upcoming election? Are you a U.S. citizen? And someone says no, he walks away. But this online site asked people if they were non-citizens, and in a separate place asked them were they registered to vote and had they voted. Now, out of 80,000, about 820 said were registered to vote, and then a subset of that said that they had voted. Now, the argument is that that could be error, although I've spoken to the author of the study who told me that was in 2008 and 10.
He hasn't backed off from his numbers.
No, in 2012, he said 80% of the same people hit the same button, so it's looking less and less like an accident.
So those numbers are big enough to sway elections.
Well, in terms of a study, but let me tell you about some real numbers we're getting at Judicial Watch. We did a public records request to Virginia, and they indicated that within just the past couple of years, they've removed thousands, was 3,000 or 4,000 people who were non-citizens who were registered. So, wrongfully, accidentally, fraudulently, whatever.
So this is
these were names that they determined.
Now, did they talk about how often they had voted, if any?
No, they did not.
But if they were registered, they could have voted if they had the necessary ID to vote. I don't think Virginia has a weak ID.
Could have, in the sense of, yes, it was possible. If they did it intentionally, there are instances of people who have been deported over casting unlawful votes who were non-citizens.
So the left will tell us if there are aliens on the voter rolls, you can't believe they're voting. That obviously doesn't make any sense.
It wouldn't make sense to anyone. Where you have several thousand people registered to vote, you're going to have a certain, what did they register for?
Yeah.
You're going to have a certain cohort who are going to believe, at least rightly or wrongly, or fraudulently, that they can vote, and they're going to try to do so. And I'll tell you as well, we also found in Maryland in the course of our lawsuit there, and the dates are very sort of spongy. We're going to have to look into this more, either in this lawsuit or outside of it. But they identified about 5,000 people who'd been identified as being on the juror rolls. So these are people who had to be citizens in order to get on the federal jury rolls, but had checked the box saying that they were not citizens when it came to jury service. So, so if you follow
well, maybe they all just didn't want to be jurors and broke the law and lied about their citizenship status.
Well, let's say that you're a U.S. citizen and you don't want to go to jury duty. Would you perjure yourself and renounce your citizenship just to avoid jury duty? I think that's extreme. Maybe there are people who will do that.